this is Frances Valdez, founder and managing partner of F. Valdez Law, PC, immigration law firm. And today we are in our next episode of Movement Talk, the show about immigration and other social justice issues. Today, our episode is going to talk about an amazing organization here in Houston called MECA, which stands for Multicultural Education and Counseling through the Arts. So I have to make a disclosure in order to be transparent. MECA is a really important organization to me. My mother, Alice Valdez, actually founded the organization, and I grew up in MECA. And so my life has been greatly impacted by this organization, and I wanted to share with you all the amazing things that MECA does and the amazing people who work there. So our guest today is Armando Silva, who works at MECA and is also a former student and a good friend of mine. So I want to thank him for being here. And to start off with, what we've been trying to do in Movement Talk is we want to start off with people's stories, because we feel like when people understand the story behind the issue, then it's more impactful. And so we usually have been talking a lot about immigration and social justice, and I think that a lot of people might not understand what an arts organization, what they can do for the community and the impact that the arts has. And I know I've seen the amazing impact that MECA has had on people's lives and the impact that arts and culture has on the community. So it would be great just to start off to hear a little bit about you and your involvement in the arts and in MECA, and then we can learn more about MECA.
So thank you for having us first. Congratulations on the show. We're really excited about Movement Talk. We keep it exciting too. But MECA has been very important for me. My story is not my story without MECA being a part of it. I didn't get to MECA until I was in high school, but even that might seem late to some people, but I think that really is the time when my career started to form. I always knew I would be a dancer. I feel that in my bones. My mom still makes fun of me. Oh yeah, you used to dance around your sisters, and yeah, so you were going to be a dancer. But it wasn't until I got to MECA that I really started to see the true potential for a career. And Alice has been amazing from the get-go with me. I came to MECA in 1991. That sounds like a long time, and yeah, yes it is. But so I first started as a dance student, and they were providing dance classes to me at no charge, which was phenomenal. I was attending the high school for performing and visual arts, and everybody else in the school had their own private studios to go to because they could afford to go to other studios and take additional classes. I didn't have that luxury until I found MECA. That was where they really stepped in and provided a lot of training that really gave me that next level of technique, the next level of confidence to say, yes, little brown boy, you can do it, you know. So it was wonderful, and MECA has been a part of everything that I do since then. Graduated from the High School for Performing and Visual Arts. Alice herself drove me to Southern Methodist University, where I received full scholarship and trained there some more. MECA was directly responsible for my first trip to New York, and as a dancer, if you don't go to New York, then something's wrong, something's missing. But Alice and her staff really made it possible for me to attend the Alvin Ailey American Dance School there in New York City. They provided the airfare, helped me with my application process, found me rooming. This was my first time away from home, and there I was, big boy in a college dormitory at the Rubin Residence Hall in New York City. But all of that was possible through MECA, and without it, I just don't see that I could have had the career that I had. I enjoyed a 12-year-long career working professionally for the Dallas Black Dance Theater, traveling the world on somebody else's fabulous dime, and getting to see all that the world had to offer and performing on stages to audiences over thousands, and it was amazing. But had it not been for MECA to put me on that right path, I don't think I ever would have seen those places.
So when you said that dancing was in your bones, can you try to convey to people that might not understand like an artist's spirit or the need to be, like, what would have happened to a little young man who felt like he needed to dance but who was not given the opportunity to really flourish in that area?
I think the best way I can explain this arts thing, not just in dance, but I've seen it with other friends in the different art areas. It's a hunger almost. It's imagine going days without water. And to me, It's a very spiritual thing too. I connect all of those things. I couldn't imagine myself going through one day not finding myself in a shimmy mode or even something silly as that, but it really does seem to me like a hunger that if I don't have a little bit, just a little bit a day, I'm incomplete. And I think that's the best way to really convey to someone what it would be like to not, or what the arts could be like to someone. It's essential. And, you know, working with MECA, we work with kids as early as 5, and we get to watch them bloom into these amazing people. And the arts is really what does that. It allows them a different way of looking at things. You know, some people see it straight and narrow, but we all know that it's not really about straight and narrow. There's so many different things that could impact one's life and one's choices, and the arts really does allow you to do that. Even if you're just taking one class, and you're, say for instance, if I'm taking a dance class and I choose to swing my head one way or not one way, that choice that I've made to do that really changes the step. It really changes the intent behind the movement. So in life, making a choice, learning that you can make those choices can really then shape and guide you where you should be going, hopefully, to a positive, great place. And I think that's what MECA in the Arts really does for our children. It's a discipline that we're teaching them in any of the art forms that they can then carry over to their regular daily lives.
So I think it was interesting too, you talked about how MECA helped you go to New York, and then you talked about how you wound up dancing in Dallas with Dallas Black Dance Theater. And so, and then you said how at HPVA you didn't have the money to go to these other extra classes. Like, how do those opportunities affect a dancer, for example? So if the dancer isn't able to get the extra classes or mentorship or experiences, I mean, do you just kind of hit like a dead end zone, or, you know, and what is it also that MECA does for the career? Because I know that we have, you know, so you're talking about classes, but it sounds like there's more to just the class than just the classes.
So first of all, I think what's been most amazing about MECA and Alice and her work is that it's been relentless in finding funding. I mean, we've gone through some major ups and downs when we've lost serious funding, but still the programs are not impacted. And it's been amazing to see her work because we continue to impact the lives of youth. But I think when someone doesn't have that extra little bit of help that MECA provides for some, then they plateau. It's like anything. I mean, in your studies, if you were thinking in general academic studies, if you don't have access to a full library and you only get that one set of encyclopedia, then you're only going to know A through Z. MECA brings a whole other realm of information for people in the arts, and also academically. We do provide great support services for them as well. So it's not just the arts, but we provide tutoring, we provide mentoring. All of our teachers act as mentors too. So we hire instructors that come from where we come. They understand what we are going through or what the students are going through, so they're really able to be effective more by letting them know, hey, I was there once too. You too can be this if you chose to do so. And the great thing is that we give them the power to understand if they want to be an artist, they have all of that ability. If they don't want to, then they can use what they've learned and go anywhere else they want to. It's a freedom that I think I've been able to experience myself to say, hey, I don't want to do that right now, or I'm going to take my time and do it this way. I think MECA is that safe place for many kids that are not in a position to help themselves. MECA and Alice and her staff have been those people to hundreds of children over the last 40 years. I can think of so many great success stories, and one of them, Houston's first poet laureate, Miss Gwendolyn Zepeda, who hopefully will be joining us later. She is a MECA alumni. We have one young lady who has graced the stage of the Houston Grand Opera, and that's all been through Alice's hard work. Because of that, she's toured to fabulous places that a little girl in the hood might not expect to see. You know, you never think, one day I'm going to be in Paris dancing, or I'm going to be in Vienna at the Vienna Black Dance Festival. Those are things that I could not imagine until I ran into MECA. That's where a lot of kids find glory. I know that sounds a little cheesy maybe, but it's true. I think um, it is a safe haven for a lot of folks, and a good boost for many.
Well, I mean, I can testify to the fact that I was once an artist. That a lot of people don't know this about me, but played the violin since I was itty bitty, and then I played the oboe because my mom played the oboe, and then I went to HSPVA too. But I knew that I wasn't going to be a professional artist. I knew that pretty early in my childhood, but being an oboist and then I played mariachi for a number of years. It definitely taught me what you're saying, like the discipline. It taught me how do you have a project or something that you want to do, accomplish, and then what are the steps, and then what is like the daily, the hourly kind of process for going towards it. Because, I mean, the arts is really competitive, and that was something that I actually pushed me away from it, from music, was that it was too competitive for me. I didn't have the hunger, and I realized that in high school because my peers did, and it was just a different approach for me. But I'm so thankful that I can still now pick up a guitar and I can sing and I can have a good time. And then not only that, most of life is performance, right? I mean, like what we're doing here, and when we have to get up and give a speech or a presentation, and I know that I have that like inner artist in me that comes out in so many ways. So I definitely see that. The other thing that I was thinking about, and having gone to HSPVA as well, and you talked about it, was a lot of folks that are in the arts and that become professionals don't tend to be poor people or people of color. Um, because it is so competitive, right? And especially like with dance or anything, music, a lot of these kids are starting when they're really young. And even like you said, high school, it was probably really late for a dancer to start. So, I mean, the fact that MECA starts at such a young age and can help people. But I do think that that's the piece, though, that makes MECA special. Like, it's not just another arts education program, right? Because there's others in this town. It's really who they're targeting. And you also mentioned that the teachers understand the students. And so I don't know if you can maybe talk a little bit about that too. Like what is that difference at MECA that as opposed to someone going to the Easton Ballet or someone going to another arts institution in the city?
I think the biggest thing is that it feels like a family always. It doesn't matter if you've been coming for 5 years or if you just started today. The feeling that one gets, that we provide, and we strive to do that, is to be open to everyone and be welcoming of whomever walks in those doors, and use that to really give them a confidence that they may be lacking when they come. The arts is definitely a commitment, and I think very few people understand the rigorous training that goes into really being that successful artist, regardless of what genre of art you go into. But I think with that feeling of family and support from MECA, then we can get these children to really commit to what they're doing. And we allow for them to be super committed if they choose to, making and finding ways for them to really pursue that dream of becoming the next prima ballerina or visual artist. And I think that is the biggest key to what makes MECA special and different. It is the support that comes from the staff, the support that comes from our visionary and founder, Mrs. Valdez. You just don't really see that in many places. And I'm hoping that as we continue, this is something we'll never lose. That sense of unity, and I'm with you, and I'm gonna follow you, and I'm gonna guide you. That's important. A lot of kids don't get that necessarily when they go to other places. I find, unfortunately, that in many places it's about the money. How many kids can I pack into one classroom so that I can really keep the studio going? And so it's not even a dream about the children anymore. It's the dream of that studio person, owner, or How do I keep my doors open? So they lose focus, they lose vision. And that's one thing we can always say that MECA keeps in the forefront is the need of these children that we're serving, the need of the community. So I've been talking about all of the great things that we offer children and youth and my experiences there as a kid. But what I haven't talked about is what MECA offers to the rest of the community. We talk about how the arts can be an expensive, great habit to have. A lot of people can't afford to be the artist, but a lot of people also can't afford to support the arts. And so what we do with the great support of the many funders that we have, provide a place and a venue for artists of color to come and present their work. And so it's open to anyone, and our prices are super inexpensive so that people can attend the theater without having to pay those extravagant costs that you might if you were going to one of the larger institutions. If you were going to, we bring high quality artists to our community that really can share their artwork. And the venue that we provide also for these artists, some of them are fledgling artists, they're up and coming artists. Some are established, but many are not. And so we're providing a venue for these people to get their artwork out, to be seen and heard for the first time in many cases. And so that's another great service that we offer to all walks of life, all ages in the city of Houston.
Now we have another guest with us, Gwendolyn Zepeda, who is a former MECA student and now a board member. And so it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing now.
Sure. My name is Gwen, as Francis said. Right now, I'm a published author. I've written 11 books. I happen to be Houston's first poet laureate. I'm telling you all this for a reason. So I grew up in Houston's 6th Ward, which at the time I was growing up there in the 80s, 70s, was a very poor, mostly Mexican neighborhood. I know you can't tell by looking at me, but my dad's Mexican. And I was a MECA student because MECA was in the 6th Ward, it still is. So I spent a lot of time at MECA. MECA taught me to dance, taught me to sing, helped me get a scholarship. I went away to UT. Then I became an adult, I became a writer. I actually worked for MECA for some time when I needed a job between then and now. And now I'm a writer. I have a really good job in corporate America, and I'm now a board member.
So you mentioned that you're a writer now, but you've also done singing and dancing at MECA. So what's the correlation between that and what you're doing now?
You know, it seems like there's no correlation at all, but it's really a very strong correlation. So when I was at MECA, we concentrated a lot on Broadway musicals. We did a lot of singing, a lot of dancing. We did ballet to sort of get our bodies in shape. There weren't a lot of writing classes, but what I really learned to do at MECA through the classes and through the performances was sort of project management, I guess you could say. Everything we did needed to be planned from beginning to end. It wasn't like a school where someone gives us a prepackaged curriculum and says, do this thing, follow these steps. Everything was conceptualized by either Alice or an adult that she hired or a volunteer. So as a teenager, I was working with professional choreographers, directors, writers, actors, musicians, and I really got to see the way these things came together. So I always wrote. I always wanted to be a writer, and there were times at MECA where Alice was like, hey, you're a writer. We know you like to write. You can help do this. I wrote a few programs. By the time I left MECA and went to college at the age of 19, I thought to myself, well, I want to be a professional writer, and if I'm going to do that, I need to follow some steps. I need to make a plan. I made a plan. I started submitting work to journals and submitting work to agents, and I'm going to say within a few years, I had an agent, I had my first book deal, and really quickly I had my second, third, fourth, novels, kids' books. I published 11 books now, and in a lot of ways I owe it to the skills I learned at MECA. MECA really taught me that if you like the arts and you want to be an artist, you have to do the work to be a success.
And so now that you're a board member, why did you choose to become a board member, and how do you feel, what's your relationship with the organization?
So it's funny, when I was a student at MECA, as I said earlier, the 6th Ward was a poor neighborhood. My family wasn't an exception to that. We were pretty poor. I had a lot of dysfunctional things going on around me. But when I went to MECA, I really loved to go there to sing and the dance. And I just remember there were always a lot of adults there. Some of them I knew why they were there, some of them I didn't. Some of them would come in suits and dresses just every week, and I would see them and I would think, I don't know who they are, it doesn't matter. I knew they were board members eventually. And then when I got older, I learned that they were the people who were kind of running things and raising money for us, and they were helping me, whether or not I ever spoke to them. So if you had seen me then, I looked a lot different. I was a completely different kind of person. I spoke differently. I wouldn't have believed that I would become a successful writer, and I don't think anyone looking at me would have believed it either. And it's nice to imagine, I know that more successful artists are going to come out of MECA and more successful people. I like coming full circle and being one of those people who walks into the building to help give those kids opportunities. And it's okay if they don't know who I am. I need to do my part now.
That's great. Well, I know that a lot of us, or all of us at MECA, are really proud of you and with everything you've accomplished. And especially when you became the first poet laureate. That was incredible. And then I got to read one of your books, especially, I've read a couple of your books.
You should have read them all.
Yes. But especially because I got to interview you about a year ago and talk about your work. And so I really recommend folks reading your work, because I think that it also speaks to a lot what we're talking about with MECA. Talking about your experiences, right? And I think that with MECA, you know, it's not like every other arts organization.
Sure.
And that it matters kind of like the perspective that they're pulling out of people and that they're teaching people. And so I say that because I know your work, you talk a lot about even being a Houstonian or just who you are and your family, and it's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would be interesting to hear from you all. What is it that MECA brings to the Houston community, right, that's different from another arts organization? What is it doing now, or how is it impacting the arts field locally and nationally?
You know, I think since it is going on 40 years now, it amazes me how much we've impacted the community overall in the city of Houston. We talked earlier about the mariachi program and how mariachi was basically now all over the city in schools being taught, and that was really because of Alice's work with Alfonso Lera, who started the first MECA Mariachi years ago, and now you have high schools as important and as recognized nationally as the High School for Women in Visual Arts with their own mariachi program. That kind of work you don't really know you're doing. We're working to impact the individual at that moment, and then we see that person go to the next place, and it has a ripple effect that continues to grow. So it's been really amazing to see that work over the last 20 years that I've been involved. But what are we doing differently than other organizations? We are really putting passion into what we do. Everyone there, from the founder to the people taking care of our building, cleaning and such, people are really invested in what it is that we do, in the help that we bring to Houston youth. We work predominantly with children of color, but it's not just for children of color. The passion that is in the work is really being passed on to the children that are learning it. And so it really is building on the vision that this woman had 40 years ago to be a help and a guiding light for these kids. And it's impacting other organizations in the city too. When the Houston Grand Opera decided to do the world's first mariachi opera, who did they run to? To Alice Valdez and MECA for the mariachi.
And for the star, right?
For the star,
the star
right?
singer was a MECA student,
Vanessa
right?
Alonso, yes, she started mariachi when she was 13 with MECA, and so maybe 11 even. And so, you know, her going out into the world now is an opera singer who had no operatic training, is letting other people see, I too can be that person. You know, it doesn't matter that I'm coming from a poor background or that I'm not lily white, or I too can do that. And so that's just one other organization that's impacted. We are working, providing teachers for other organizations too, where we're sending artists into those other institutions, into other schools throughout Houston. We supplement a lot of the arts education that is not happening in our city. So it's major work that MECA is doing. You know, a lot of the things that get cut first right away are the arts. You know, we need more money for uniforms for the sports. We'll keep that, but we're going to get rid of the arts. And so MECA really steps in those cases and sends teachers to these schools to provide the arts. And we know that the arts is important for many reasons. We have evidence of it all the time. You know, you guys sitting here with us, you use that discipline to become amazing in your own right? I mean, so we see the discipline that is important in the training of the arts, and MECA is providing that throughout the city. Another major impact that we have is providing a venue for artists of color to present their work. Many people who are just coming out with their new dances or their new songs don't have a place to necessarily go. They might not be able to afford, I'm going to rent out the Hobby Center today for my concert, but MECA becomes that venue. And with that, then we are also helping audiences. People might not be able to afford a $70 ticket to watch Barbra Streisand sing at the Toyota Center, but they can come see someone that is aspiring to be that Barbra Streisand, who might be just as great as a Barbra Streisand, for $10, for $15, affordable prices. So we're bringing the arts to the people, to the community, where they can really have a hands-on experience. Every time that an artist comes into our center, they're also working with our youth. Nothing that we do leaves the youth out. We know that that is the reason why we exist. And so it's a great volley that's happening between the arts at MECA and the arts in the city.
That's a good point. It actually goes both ways, doesn't it? Because everything MECA does is about the children, but what I think of MECA as being different from other arts institutions, there are hundreds of places in Houston where you can go drop off your kids after school and then come back to the door in your car and pick them up and they can say, I learned this today. MECA is really a place where not just the children come in and are enriched, but their parents and their family members and their neighbors come in. I know a lot of parents volunteer at MECA for various reasons. Some of them pay for their children's classes through volunteering. Some of them volunteer just because they like to. I know board members hang around and watch things and sometimes join in performances. And I know the employees are mostly artists themselves. So it's not just about kids, a bunch of kids in a building doing arts. It's actually about a community participating in the arts in one way or another. And I think that's what makes MECA so special. You know, a lot of the families at MECA have parents, a lot of the kids have parents who care about them, and that's great. But some of them don't, unfortunately. Some of them just don't have a lot of supportive adults in their lives for one reason or another. And I think that's what MECA gives people. It's like a building full of professional, talented, caring adults. And I think that's important for a lot of their students. I know it was certainly important for me when I was a student there.
I hear the word life skills a lot in some programs, and I think everything that we teach at MECA is a life skill, believe it or not. I mean, we're not just teaching dance, but we're teaching through the dance. You know, I think it's a big difference to teach dance and to teach through the dance. Through the dance, I'm teaching you to be self-disciplined. I'm teaching you about respect. I'm teaching you that it's more than just about you. Because, for instance, if I'm dancing on the stage with other people, I'm an ensemble, I'm a group. And I think that's something, too, that we give our students. I don't think I know, but that's what we give these kids. We let them know that you are important, but it's not just about you. And ultimately, you're going out into the world and you're going to have to adult one day. And you're going to have to do it around a bunch of other people. And how do you grow and be a part of other people? Allow yourself to be likable, workable with other people. And I mean, that's going to have a tremendous impact on community, on
Right.
On other individuals. You know, I love the work that we do because I really do feel it's infectious and in a good way, right? So don't allow yourself to get vaccinated.
Not a Zika virus way.
No, but a wonderful, joyous infection, I think. And it someone who's happy can really make a great impact on many other lives. And I think the arts provides that outlet. It gives you a way to be happy. I know for me, it was dancing. I've danced myself out of many depressions, you know, like, oh, there goes another 10 pounds, okay, let's dance it off. But I do think that it's one super important thing that Alice has woven into everything that we do at MECA, is that passion and that love for what you do, whether it's dance, whether it's music, or whether it's writing, you know, and we've had many people come out discovering many new things about themselves from having taken one class in something else.
Right. I mean, you guys have had architects, lawyers, people who are exposed to something through MECA that may not necessarily be what MECA is formally training people in. But you meet so many people, you meet so many diverse types of people at MECA, and as you say, you as a child are treated as an important part of that community. And it does make you understand how you could be an adult part of the community. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say, you know, parents come in. MECA also has classes for adults, and I've seen a lot of people who I recognize as parents of students. You know, I'll come back to a MECA show and I see those parents performing ballet folklorico on the stage, and I think, oh wow, and they said, oh, they saw the class, they started taking the classes, and here they are. And I think that's great. I think that's magical.
We're a true community center in every sense of the word. I think the arts is just the tool that we use to engage and focus people. If we can hook you like that, then we can fix almost anything, right? And if we can't do it at MECA, we have, being a part of United Way Agency, we can then refer you to other places that can fill in those gaps that we can't provide. And we work with all ages. Like you said, we are soon to start a senior citizens program. And so we're going to do it slowly but surely, but we're going to start with a visual art class and with a dance fitness class. So finding that age group of people that might not see where they can stay active, or we don't want them to feel left out for sure, right? We want them to come in, and we're going to cater to these senior citizens so that they have something to do. They can feel a part of the community. I feel that age group sometimes gets left out. So that's something that Alice was great at pointing out. You know, we don't really do a lot of work with this age group. Why not? What can we do? How do we do it? So we've secured the funding to do that, and we'll start those programs soon.
That's awesome. I'm going to make my dad go.
Yeah. In addition to the classes, so I know we have the Dia de los Muertos. There's a Calavera Rendezvous on October 21st, right?
Correct.
And how much is that?
That's $50 online and $60 at the door. And it may sound like a lot, but let me tell you all the great things that you get at the Calavera Rendezvous. So you'll get your entrees, you'll get beverages, and
wait, entrees like full meals?
Well, you can make a full meal out of it. They're finger foods, lots of finger foods, but you can make a lot of you can make an entree. But so we'll have live performances, and so I've been able to secure some amazing musicians that are some MECA alumni, some are MECA instructors. So we will have live music and live performance by some of the ballet folklorico dancers under the direction of Mr. Alfonso Lopez, and also with a group of Colombian dancers that has been collaborating with Lopez. I have a great fashion show that's being directed by Regina Moretto, who is working as a fashion, that is what she does. So we're not pretending to do fashion. We actually have a great real designer putting together some wonderful looks. And a makeup artist that'll be doing the Calavera faces and body parts. And we use all of that as a tool to teach about the traditions. You know, we may get people questioning, well, why are they in the skull makeup? And then we talk about that as a symbol for the muerte and what it means in the tradition of the day. You'll see a lot of the flowers and the girls' hairs out of the cempasúchil, and then we start talking about why the cempasúchil is used, what it represents in the celebrations for Dia de los Muertos. One of the most beautiful aspects about our festival is that, again, as we mentioned, the MECA was so housewarming and very loving, and we open our doors up to people to come and create altares or ofrendas for their loved ones, which we know is a big part of the Dia de los Muertos tradition. We have workshops on how to create and how to build the ideal altar. But again, they're sort of personal. You know, we let you do what you do for your loved ones, but we have an exhibition that opens at the beginning of our festival, of our month-long celebrations for Dia de los Muertos. We have about 40 spaces that we allow for people to come in and build their altars for their loved ones, and we get to see and hear some really beautiful stories of people that are no longer with us, and always an emotional time for us at the center. you'll see someone building an altar, and you can see when somebody's going through something emotionally. You can see it, and it's wonderful to see that coming through and out of the building. It's always a lively place anyway, but for this Dia de los Muertos and the Altar exhibition, it's an incredible time to visit the center and really learn about the tradition and learn other people's stories, and it's beautiful. But other than those, we also have Fiestas Decembrinas, which happens in December. We are big on our Latino culture and traditions. We celebrate La Posada in the 06 Ward, which is a recreation of the pilgrimage to Bethlehem. And so we visit several homes in the neighborhood where we're shunned and turned away. And then finally we come back to MECA and they open arms and welcome him. Our last.
With
He's
sweet
born.
bread. With
With
sweet
bread. Pan dulce. There's
Don't forget
always
the most
pan dulce,
important part.
And
Yeah.
don't you also celebrate the Virgen de Guadalupe? Yeah.
Right. Her feast day is
Guadalupana.
December 12th. And so every December 12th, we have the Mañanitas that we have a beautiful sculpture of La Virgen de Guadalupe made out of cans, believe it or not. Paul Kettleson, I believe, was the artist. Anyhow, it's huge, and it adorns our front lawn at MECA, and we always start there with the traditional Mañanitas de la Virgen de Guadalupe. We process indoors, and then we have danzas by the matachines, and pan dulce, some more pan dulce, and
Gotta have that sweet bread.
chocolate abuelita, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so
Yeah.
pan dulce for everything. Lots of great tamales, too. Always great food.
Yes.
We like
Well,
to
that's it. That's an important part of our culture.
I think so. I think so. And we do it well. We represent all aspects of these traditions. And you're right, food is a big part of that. We make sure that we're not just bringing you burgers and fries for these events, but we're really taking into consideration every aspect of what it means to prepare something as culturally rich as that. So we make sure that we have the appropriate foods that go with each event.
So I just want to thank my amazing guest today to talk about a beautiful organization. As we've been talking, it makes me realize that MECA, it is a family, and I feel like family with the two of you, and I'm so grateful to know you both and to know the amazing people that you've become. And I was feeling really excited about us as adults being able now to give back, and I feel like I have partners that we can work together to make this city what it should be through places like MECA. So I just really hope that people learn more about MECA and go to the festival. And it's at 1900 Kane Street in Houston, Texas, in the Old 6th Ward. And the phone number is 713-802-9370. And so I just hope to see you there and to join us in one of the amazing celebrations. Thank you.